Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today we are going to be going through the second round of developer feedback here for February. Now, from what I can surmise, it seems as though the suggestions that are being pulled, at least I'm hoping that this is the case, where it's the top suggestions from the suggestions channel here under the support category. Those are getting compiled, and then they're going to base their answers or start to answer those and then post those here for our monthly developer feedback rounds. We are going to go ahead and dive right in. Just before I do fully go in, because we'll just essentially just easy go top down, I want to obviously give a huge shout out to the dev team. I'm a big fan of when there is some level of transparency. Obviously, you know, in certain areas, I think having more transparency is always better, or at least as much as you can possibly do within reason. And the fact that they are taking the time to go through and answer questions based on the suggestions or the highly rated suggestions that have been submitted, I'm always going to be in favor of that. Okay, here we go. We got number 1. Make combat more engaging and interesting that actually involves strategy and skill, not just who has the biggest army. Add skills for heroes that we can control, make it more dynamic, add more variation of units, etc. Make strategy and skill matter, not just the size of your army. Answer, thank you for your valuable feedback. We understand your concerns, and we are continuously working to optimize our combat mechanics to enhance your overall gaming experience. While we don't have the plans to add hero skills at the moment, we appreciate your suggestions and will continue exploring ways to improve overall combat experience. So, let me first talk about the suggestion of hero skills. Now, I'm not exactly sure what this individual means. Do they just mean the ability to activate your hero's primary skill when you would like, right? That could be something. Kind of almost as though you're doing a skill shot in League of Legends, but another example is it's like the artifacts. Some of the artifacts you can control and kind of choose where they go. So I'm not sure if that's what this person means. Again, the challenge is that this suggestion is just too broad and vague. It's not detailed enough. That's the short version of it. So I think the response that was given is equal to that level of suggestion that was provided, right? Lack thereof. Number 2, let us view. Now, if you're just asking me, do I like the idea of if your hero's skill could be activated? I do, right? I actually think it'd be cool if you could either toggle it to where you can choose to manually activate or just auto-activate. Because I think that for those that would want to manually activate the skill, right, there might be better opportune situations to do that in where you might just not want to do it back to back to back, right? One example is if you're fighting someone one-on-one, you know, and maybe you know other units are coming in to support that enemy. You might not want to hit your skill right away. You might want to wait until those units get there closer. So, right, again, I'm sure there's other situations that can arise from that, but that would be cool. Number 2, let us view other servers without making an account on that server. We appreciate the suggestion. We are currently working on ways to make it possible to view other servers without creating an account. This is dope to me. I'm a fan of this, not only from just a player, but more so from a content creator where again, it's a grind now, right? Now it's level 7 for your Augur Stone. Previously it was level 5. You know, so for me, when I'm making new accounts in new kingdoms, I usually always want to at least unlock Augur Stone so I can look at what some of the timeline is and obviously have access to the season summaries. So you could still do it. It just takes a little bit more time now. But yes, being able to view other kingdoms. Now, I don't know if this would apply to Fog because of the way that the Augur Stone works. And if you look at how Rock works as well for the first season or for your home kingdom up until KVK1, Fog is covered. You can't view it. You can't even do the fog clearing glitch anymore or workaround, which is nice to be able to do at once upon a time. So, again, being able to view the kingdom, right, I assume this would be different or it would factor in once you get past that fog area. So maybe you don't necessarily need a account in there. But for someone like me, I would always make an account because it allows for me to access stats. If you're just viewing it from another kingdom, sure, you can view the unfogged once once it is unfogged. But you just won't be able to see those other finite details. But I still look at this as a W. I think this is a good suggestion. Number 3, Let our force kick people who are reinforcing a rally or a stronghold with the wrong type troop. It would make the game so much easier and is just a small change. Answer, thank you for your suggestion. We understand how this could be frustrating and we'll take your suggestion into consideration for future updates. I actually think this is a good suggestion overall. I think having the ability just to remove people, that doesn't mean that's in a mean way, but just remove people because you're looking to have a more efficient rally or garrison just makes sense. And also the fact that if you could only have one person do it and having now more people that could do it, right, with that suggestion, that makes it a lot easier to manage those situations. And that's just more quality of life. I think that's a win for the game. Then we get to question 4. Increase the limit for collecting crystals per week from 1,000 to 4,000, or better, remove it. Free-to-play players have nowhere to get them as soon as they do not collect from the map. So this is one of those suggestions where you kind of have to just pick and choose, right? You don't want to be flippant, so to speak, and cover casting a wide net. You just want to be super simple, where, again, you could just come out and say, look, I just think we need to remove the crystal limit or the gem gathering limit altogether. That's an example. Or you come out and you have everyone who's like, okay, let's increase it from 1,000 to 4,000. But don't say 1 to 4,000 or better remove it, right? That's 2 suggestions in there, right? Be very clear with where your suggestion and the direction of it is wanting to go. So the answer, we appreciate your feedback. While we currently don't have plans to increase the limit, we will continue to monitor the situation and to ensure a fair and balanced gaming experience. So I think for me, what I would have loved to see the response here from them, and I think this was actually a missed opportunity for the devs, is to explain and to provide their reasoning and justification on why they put in a gem gathering limit, and or expand on whatever reason maybe they have previously given, right? This to me is a missed opportunity, right? It's not, you don't always want to give a generic answer. This is a great way when you think of a developer feedback or developer column, right? Kind of like in a newspaper or a magazine, where you can give us the insight on what was your mindset? What were you thinking? Why do you want this change to exist? What benefit do you think the player base will get from it? That's really where I think for some of these answers, the devs have the opportunity to do that. So I hope we'll see that either down the line as we keep reading or in the future, because I think that will just help the community a lot more overall. And remember, it doesn't matter if the community agrees or disagrees with it. What's important is that you take a stance and don't just kind of remain neutral, right, on your, Switzerland island, so to speak, right? Again, it is okay to let us know. At minimum, everyone should respect that, regardless if you agree or disagree. Then we get to question 5, which is level 789 fortresses, please, so bigger rallies will get more rewards. I don't think that's a bad suggestion. Thank you for regarding the possibility of adding higher level fortresses for better rewards. However, the amount of rally troops sent by players does not significantly increase with the higher levels of Darkling fortresses, and therefore we won't be considering adding a higher level of fortresses. Okay, I mean, this actually is a more detailed explanation or answer given that makes sense. Okay, I mean, that to me I get, right? The amount of rally troops sent by players does not significantly increase with the higher levels of Darkling fortresses. However, that the way the answer is written makes it almost seem to me that they are thinking or giving us an answer that reflects when you attack a higher level Darkling fortress, it increases the total amount of troops or troop capacity that's in a rally. That's kind of how it reads to me. Again, I think a little different wording here would have probably hammered this point home a little bit more. Again, if you're getting to a point where the highest level Darkling fort is being easily defeated, right? Keep in mind, over time, they will all become easier to defeat, just like level 25, PvE units, your Darklings, right? Those will all become, because you're powering up and progressing. That's kind of the point of the game, is that those things should become easier over time, not harder. And I don't know if adding 789 fortresses, at least at this moment, is the right play, only because that's something that they might save for a later update, right? To add more content into the game on that front. I just don't know if it's absolutely needed right now. Do I think it would hurt the game if they added it? No, not at all. But I think there are some areas of the game where, there's no reason for them to add 26 through 30 Darklings at this time, right? As another example, that's kind of the opposite, or I guess in conjunction, adjacent, if we will, to the fortresses. Okay, now let's get to number 6. I'll suggest it again. We'll just scroll down here. So I'll suggest it again. Please buff Wyvern Riders and Forest Eagles. They're way too weak non-existent in war, Celestials are still far superior among the flying units. Or if you don't like that, then at least nerf the Celestials in order to have a proper balance among flying units. Celestials right now are the meta. Thank you for your feedback. We will take your feedback into consideration. I'm going to get a generic answer. I think the challenge in this suggestion is I would have loved to seen some data. I would have loved to seen them give an example of, hey, here are the stats right now. This is an example of why they're not used as much by other players. So, for example, if you want to give a good suggestion, right, and you need something that's more data-focused, like this type of suggestion, you provide the stats for each of the units, and then you go and you ask the top 200 players in maybe the merged kingdom, and you ask them, what do you prefer using and why? You collect that data, and then you go ahead and provide it in your suggestion. Right, that is, to me, if I was going to do something like this, that's what I would do, right? Just from a few points. I mean, I might do a little bit more than that, but as a minimum, as a baseline, you have to establish that, right? You have to be able to provide your supportive evidence, give examples, reasons why you would like for the change to be had, and then what is the benefit, right, to the community on that. And those are kind of a couple steps on what you would consider when you're submitting those types of suggestions. So number 7, a last online feature, I have to read that correctly. It's hard to track inactive players in a large alliance. Great suggestion. We're actually working on some features to help with alliance coordination, and adding a last online feature sounds like a great idea. We'll definitely consider it. So I like how this is a little bit more of a positive, right, kind of net positive response. And to me, I think this just makes sense. This is something that I've mentioned in a previous, when we kind of go through all the suggestions. I'll do another one of those videos soon as well. I really like this idea. Last online where it'll count. It'll maybe go hours, right? Maybe it goes like minutes up to the first hour, and then it'll go hours up to 24, which would be 1 day. And then from there, maybe it'll go 1 day in hours, and maybe it'll do that until 3 days. And then once it's 3 days, then it'll go 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, something like that, right? That would be nice to see. Regardless of how they do it, I just think it's great to have that included so you have an understanding of where those people are. I actually think if you want to take this a step further, I would love for them to make a title beyond R1 and R5 that is like vacation or time off, right? Some type of title or rank that you can place people in that is like, oh, hey, they're taking a vacation, they got some time off, but they'll be back. Right, that would actually be awesome. Or if it was some type of distinction that you can provide, so it's just a constant friendly reminder within the alliance, that would be dope sauce. Might have to suggest that. But I'm in favor of the last online. Number 8, I'd like to see eventually artifacts that can owned by an alliance or player that can affect the terrain, perhaps a burn land or slow damage, create earth wall to block movement, snowstorm or slowing movement. Nothing too game breaking, but adds more strategy. I'm actually somewhat in favor of this. You might have heard me mention oftentimes I'll talk about StarCraft and StarCraft 2, for those of you that play for one of the factions there, one of the I don't even want to say alliances, but I want to say faction that is Protoss, right? They have this bubble. And again, I do not play actively at all, so I do not know all the technical terms. I'd have to Google it real quick. But they have this kind of on-field feature you can use, which is basically a bubble that you can place, and it can basically block off choke points. It can split armies in half, right? So it creates more favorable trades and setups for you. It can delay so you can get units back more. I think those types of things, and I've mentioned this before, I really think that is one of the most potential areas of where COD's PvP can go in a positive and net positive direction of when they start thinking about how to incorporate. Now, that doesn't mean I would like to see them just add 20 or 30 new things at once. With something like that, I strongly recommend you do it one at a time and space it out a little bit. However, with the idea of adding certain things like that, whether it's ones that the players can use via artifacts, or that the players within an alliance can build for more on-field structures similar to barricades and keeps, I think that is something I would love for them to expand on, right? And who knows, maybe they're already thinking about that. But I do believe there has to be a level of moderation, right? It can't just be we're just going to give you everything. It's got to be slow and steady wins the race here. But this is a great idea. Number 9, add a button to ignore. It's very annoying in some situations. For example, you are in mid-war and there is a darkling between the enemies, or there is a darkling near you. while you are spam moving, you attack the Darkling, now it's GG, you get slowed and lose around 50% of your troops. Well, most of the time you die, plus you lose 50 CP or more. So I'm curious what they're going to respond. Thanks for the feedback. We totally understand how frustrating it can be to accidentally attack a Darkling and lose troops. We've actually made some adjustments to it, and we'll continue to monitor in case further adjustments are needed. So I like the basis of this suggestion, where the idea behind it is, why not create some kind of a toggle feature where you can say, like war mode, like you toggle war mode. And when you're in war mode, the only things you can click on are, or better yet, it just ignores like forts, it ignores Darklings, it ignores any other kind of PvE units, right? Like, for example, the only things you could click on would either be RSS tiles or player cities, right? As an example, like outside of enemy players, right? So you could attack players, RSS tiles, and then maybe cities. Like, those are the only things that would actually be allowed. Something like that. I'm actually not opposed to this, right? Because, you know, it's almost kind of like, look, if you're in a war field, like let's just say, you know, take a Braveheart scene, for example, or any kind of big war scene, you know, you're not going to accidentally click on like a rock or something, or a stump, or, you know, something else. You know, you are basically focusing on the people in front of you, right, and fighting it out for whatever reason. And so I think that logic can almost be implemented into COD, where it will benefit and I think enhance, or at least improve, the PvP scene. So I don't actually think this is a bad idea. I am somewhat in favor of this, right? It's just a matter of how would they work it in. Then let's talk about reset talent tree for free. Put a 48-hour cooldown just as an example. Time can be adjusted. Thanks for suggesting. While we won't be implementing this as a permanent mechanism, we can definitely look into creating events where players can get a certain amount of talent tree resets each season. So this is my thing. I'm actually in favor of the talent tree being free to reset. Personally, I don't believe there should be any cooldown. The reason why is because by having talent tree reset items and or adding in cooldowns for reset, it limits the real-time adjustments that can be made in war. And that to me is unrealistic. The fact that I have to either use an item to reset my talent trees and or if a cooldown was implemented is not realistic to the actual real-time war environment, right? If I want to swap out a weapon, or if I want to change, maybe make an adjustment to my weapon or something like that, right? Or I'm going to change my my clothes or whatever into a camo or a ghillie suit, whatever it may be, right? There are certain things that you can do in real time while you're in war. And I think when it comes to something like this, now I'm not saying, you know, you're going to like take the gun apart as an example and put it all back together, but adding a bayonet, you know, swapping from a assault rifle maybe to a pistol or a handgun, right? Those are realistic things that can be done. So, busting a knife out, whatever it may be, right? If we're in this, theoretical war situation, I am just in favor of talent resets not costing anything. And I think that will add a heightened and better level of strategy and tactics that can be applied on the field. Because then now you're in a situation, now obviously, maybe you can't do it while your unit is out in the field. That makes sense. You'd have to send your unit all the way back and then make the adjustments. Like, I don't think you should be able to do it on the fly while your march is out there. But once that hero is back in your city, then yeah, go ahead and make your talent tree adjustment or have presets and you're switching quickly between. I think those are things that will allow for better countering and better reactions when real-time war is happening. And I think it would also increase the overall skill level, the true skill level of wars that we're seeing from the players. So I am in favor of talent resets being free overall. And I just don't believe they should have cooldowns. I don't believe we should have talent tree reset items. To me, it just overall is hampering and really limits more of where that potential can go up from when it comes to that area. Then we get to question 11. Option to enable notifications when a player sends. And let's see here. Reset. Let me see. While we implement this, let me see what I have here. 11. When a player sends private chat messages. Option to enable notifications when a player sends you a message in private chat. Yeah, this is something I'd love. We totally get that quick responses can be crucial in some situations. However, we also want to be mindful of not overloading players with notifications. At this time, we won't be adding private message notifications. So this is my thing, right? I understand their response and where it's coming from. However, if you add a toggle option to enable notifications, right? So for example, it's disabled by default, but for those that want to enable getting a notification for private messages, why shouldn't they be able to? If it's, it's their choice. If they want to get potentially spammed with notifications, you add in the feature, you leave it disabled by default, and then you allow for players to toggle it on or off. Bam, problem solved. I'm actually in favor of this. Then we get to question 12 here. Oh, wow, there's actually a lot of questions. Alliance officials should receive an email notification after a player has been offline for 4 days. Thank you for your suggestion. We're actually already on it and working to implement this feature soon. Stay tuned for updates. So, I mean, this is my thing, right? This is somewhat redundant. If you add in a last online feature, then you probably don't necessarily need to get an email notification. Now, I'm not saying don't, because it's just a secondary. It's another way of getting information. However, if you're checking up on your alliance on a daily basis and you're looking through your member list, you should know, right, who the people are that are last online or not. So though I'm not opposed to this, I don't know, part of me just feels like it can be a little redundant. In that case, I would almost argue if they've been offline for, 2 to 3 days instead of 4, but that's just me. Again, not opposed to it, just curious if it really is the most efficient way if you're already going to add in something that we covered in one of the previous suggestions. Buff Peacekeeper tree. It would be great. It would be a great tree if it had reduced CP and able to get extra rewards as a more early talent, maybe even add extra damage to behemoths. While we appreciate your suggestion, we want to ensure that players have a variety of hero choices when it comes to pre-battle strategy, rather than limiting it to just peacekeeping heroes. Therefore, we won't be considering buffing the peacekeeping tree to add extra damage to behemoths or reduce CP costs at this time. So the interesting part is that, we have a confirmation. I don't really know why they mentioned this, because the fact is that we know that the peacekeeping tree does not do damage to behemoths. So it is interesting, right, where they confirmed that with us. So I just don't know why this was worded here instead of saying, currently the peacekeeping tree does not deal damage to behemoths. So I feel like that this should just be worded differently. But that's just me. When it comes to reducing CP, getting extra rewards, that is interesting, because I get it, right? You're going kind of down this Lohar path, this peacekeeping rock path. And I'm 50-50 on it. Like, do I care that it's not in? Not really. Am I fighting for it to be in? Not really. I mean, it's just, I'm on the fence, right? Like, I'm not moved in one way or another, or even moved for adding it, more so than I'm more or less not moved for keeping it, right? Now, when it comes to the getting extra rewards as a more early talent, that is interesting to me. I am not against maybe moving it earlier. However, on the other side, if we're doing some devil's advocate, would be that's a benefit of going deep in the tree, right? Now, maybe you could make the argument that maybe you could get more rewards from the talent to make it more worthwhile. Because I haven't leveled a hero up yet on the peacekeeping tree that high to really see how that works, along with doing it for the 4 or so heroes that are available, right? I couldn't tell you if it's a lot of resources or not a lot of resources, but that would have been nice to include in the suggestion. Number 14, add a status system where friends or alliance mates can see each other's status, like online, offline, and other servers. Could be custom status also. While we understand the potential benefits of having a status system, we also believe that it may affect the privacy and comfort of our players. We don't want players to feel pressured to share their current status, especially if they have some personal reasons. Therefore, we have decided to not to add this feature at this time. So I don't know if the status system is really the ideal way. I think when I view it more so and consider, I think just adding a general friend system, and then, maybe it just shows a green dot like it normally does when someone's online versus not online, or even if they don't want to show that at all, that's fine. Right? But I think a friend system is more of where it's going. I think having a global friend system across the entire game, so you can add friends, create chat groups as well if you're across multiple servers, I think that's something that's worth looking into, at least before maybe considering a status. maybe it's just something as simple as you add a green dot when they're online, that you can see that from your list, and then a blank dot, right, or a grayed out dot or something, right, when they're not online. Like, just keeping it really simple without them actually having to choose a drop down or a pre-selected option. Number 15, allow zoom out feature to be further when dropping Alliance Tower. Thank you for your suggestion. We're happy to let you know that we're currently working on implementing this feature in one of our future updates. This is awesome. I think this is a great quality of life update. Happy to see it. Number 16. Oh my God, there's a lot. Oh, we're almost done. The developer should make a flying Cav type hero to maximize the Eagle and Elf faction. Should make flying Cav type hero to maximize the Eagle in Elf faction. Okay, thanks for the suggestion. We've been considering introducing a flying cavalry hero in future seasons. That's cool. Right, everyone needs a flying Pegasus from our great Disney movie Hercules. Good afternoon. I would like the game to reduce the capacity of the player's rally to attack forts and gates. For example, the maximum level would be 1 million, because if a large 2 million rally attacks the player's city, it will reset in a couple of seconds, and forts of level 6, they require only 160,000 units. So I don't see the point in 2 million rally from one player. For one, you can reduce the number of soldiers in the Isles during their first attack. Alliance, probably, in the Alliance during their first attack. I saw a maximum of 80,000 units on the field, but on average 60,000. Why such large fees? We appreciate your feedback. However, as the game progresses and players become more advanced, the amount of troops needed for rallies increases. Therefore, we do not have any plans to adjust the amount of troops required for rallies at the moment. I really would have loved for this to be just maybe reworded so it's a little clearer. I almost feel like I got lost in the middle of it. So yeah, I don't really know what to think on this one. I mean, if they're basically saying they're not going to adjust the individual amount of troops that can be sent to a rally, and they're going to keep it as is, where one player couldn't just fill the rally with all their troops because they want it to be more of a alliance engagement situation where you're having as many people contribute to the rally as possible, then I'm not really against that. Number 18 is possible in any new update. Put a new system of a PvP arena. Would be great having to test heroes and fight for trophies and rewards, like ranking based in points. Most likely Rock, Have, and Lost Canyons. A new PvP game mode is definitely something we're considering and working on for future updates. We appreciate your suggestion and hope we can introduce some exciting game modes in the near future. So that's cool. I'll be honest, I actually think this is a good idea. However, I would almost love to see it kind of like a Rome Total War type situation where you can not only going and doing 1v1s, but maybe you can do 5v5, 10 on 10s, 20 on 20s, 50 on 50s as an example, so you can practice coordination, positioning, communication, structuring, presets for comps, for talents, etc., artifact usages, and you can test those in this mode that you can then apply when you actually have wars in the game, right? That, to me, would be next level. Give gift codes. We plan to release gift codes after global launch. Yeah, we've been hearing that. Number 20, please add also a special reward for the tank. Only best top 5 highest damage has a reward. Award when taking the Behemoth. In the near future, no one will play tank. Tank is most important in the Behemoth event since he takes a lot of damage. Thanks for the suggestion. A special award for the tank is currently being designed and will be added in the near future. I think that's a win. That's a W for quality of life. And to all my tank fam out there, please add calendar for upcoming events. A calendar feature will be added in the upcoming update. Stay tuned. This is great. Again, another quality of life update so you can know what's happening ahead of time. I think is just, it's good. No complaints there. I love that. Last question for us is add other events with dark monsters attacking all Alliance at the same time with different waves of monsters, and the leader of ally can choose the level of difficulty where easy, medium, or hard define how many waves of dark monsters will attack. At the end of the event, troops will recover free, and those who defend the tower or city completely receive a bonus or gifts from the event. We actually have plans to introduce new events. While we don't have a specific timeline for this, we're working on it, and we'll let you know once it's ready. Thank you for your suggestion. So, I do somewhat kind of like the idea of a wave-based event where you can have as many people participate as possible. The way I kind of view events is I think it's fun to have like objective-based events, and I also think it's great to have AVA events where you're competing with your alliance, maybe versus other, not like maybe it's where it's necessarily heads up, even though that would be cool if something could come up from that, but where it's your alliance is participating in this event, and then you're also going up against the performance of how other alliances are doing in that same event. And you're doing it where it's either objective, maybe it's more fighting focused, maybe everyone has to coordinate and maybe select certain presets during certain waves, right? So maybe you have to like send them back, switch some certain things up. I mean, again, that's like an example of what we're talking about with the talent presets. I mean, I just think that there's a lot of creativity that can be done and a lot of interesting ways that they can implement events because of the range feature, because of the flying feature, because of the hero activated skills or the artifact activated talents or artifacts, I should say. And so, yeah, we'll see. But this is nice. I think we got some nice yeses here and some good information. The one thing I'm going to end with, right, which is what I've said before, is I would love for the devs on the dev end, right, and we'll talk about the dev and the player end. So on the dev end, I would love for them, and I've mentioned this earlier, for them to be provide, when able, a good reasoning, a good vision on where they're coming from, on why they're either willing to do a change or not willing to do a change, or if it's just, hey, we're not doing it right now, but maybe we'll consider it in the future, and give your view, right? Give your POV, your vision for the game, why you're giving the answer that you are for how you see. I think that's going to help the community feel a lot more connected, if you will, to the developers in the game. And then on the player side, when you're submitting a suggestion, and I mentioned this before as well, please make sure that you are really taking time to write your suggestion out. If it's something, right, at minimum, you should always say, this is what my suggestion is. This is why I think it should be in the game. And here's the benefits to the player base. Right, so you have to give your reasonings, your justification, and then what's the net positive? What are people going to gain from it? And if there's a current system in place, how is your suggestion an improvement from the current system? If your suggestion is something where it needs data or some supportive evidence to be provided, go and do that research. And then do everything I just said and work that in. That is how we're going to get more high-quality suggestions that will have a higher chance of being considered, right? Or at least when being read, saying this is a lot easier for me to understand as a developer, right? In order for me to consider it, or so. Okay, man, 31, almost 32 minutes here. This was awesome. I really liked this developer feedback too. I think there's some cool stuff that we have in the works that's going to be coming up in future updates. So again, anytime quality of life stuff comes in, I'm always really happy, because for me, I always think that's a really big area of opportunity when it comes to the community and the player base. So, man, until the next developer feedback for number 3 in March, again, we will, I guess, catch you guys next time. But also, let me know what you think in the comments down below on anything we talked about, on any of the feedbacks. Which ones do you like the most? Which ones do you wish we got more of an answer on? Which ones do you agree with for ones you would have liked to seen added in, but maybe they gave us the response of, we're not just going to do it right now. So I am always happy to read those comments down below. And finally, now, that's going to be it for me. As always, until next time, I will catch you later.